Hello and welcome to the TID Water and Power Podcast. I'm your host, Constance Anderson, and on this month's episode, we're discussing recreation at Don Pedro Reservoir. For more than 50 years, the Don Pedro Reservoir has been a destination for boating, fishing, camping, and so much more. Behind the scenes is the Don Pedro Recreation Agency, ensuring recreation is safe, campgrounds are maintained, and everything continues to run smoothly. On this episode, I'm joined by Recreation Department Manager Reis to discuss the Don Pedro Recreation Agency, the recreation opportunities at Don Pedro, and the fun in the sun that DPRA has planned for 2026. Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so Ryan, you actually joined us way back in June of 2021 for our second episode ever, which was pretty early on in the goings for us, and we were definitely learning a lot back at that stage. But you were also learning a lot because you had really just started with the district not long before we recorded the episode about Don Pedro's 50th anniversary.
Yeah, I started back in 2019, and as we all know, shortly after that, we all kind of got shut down. So it was a learning progress for everybody at that time, and back then I was sharing whatever I had learned about the month before on that last podcast.
I know we kind of put you under fire right away. But tell us a little bit about your background. Where were you before you came to TID?
Sure. Recreation pretty much fell on my lap. While I was in college, I was working seasonally. While everyone else was out getting internships, I was out working at the lake having some fun. And after college, I tried my hand in the tech industry for a little bit, but ended up going back to where I was working seasonally as the Recreation Seasonal Operations Manager at Pine Mountain Lake.
Oh, great.
From there, Don Pedro wasn't too far away, and I saw an opening and decided to throw my name in the hat, and here I am today.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we're glad that 5, 6, 7 years later, you're still with us. So that's awesome. It clearly has been a good fit for you. All right. Well, I want to get into all of the fun that the Don Pedro Recreation Agency offers and all of the exciting things slated for this year. But I think it would be good to start by explaining what DPRA is. Can you give me an overview of DPRA?
Sure. Don Pedro Recreation Agency is formed through the FERC license. Inside of our FERC license at TID, there are specific recreation requirements that tell us exactly how many campgrounds we're supposed to have, how many campsites, what kind of campsites, how many parking spaces, even how many restrooms we're supposed to have out there in the campgrounds. Between that, there is an operations agreement built between the Turlock Irrigation District, Modesto Irrigation District, and the City and County of San Francisco. Through that, the agreement talks about the funding, the roles and responsibilities, but it really builds an additional board that I report to and I take my direction from. That's made up of one elected official from TID, one elected from MID, and then a staff member from the City and County of San Francisco.
Right. When you refer to our FERC license, that's the license that the districts have to hold as given to us by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that kind of determines all things related to our license to produce power, recreation being one of those.
Correct. Recreation is a component of the FERC license.
Okay, very cool. And so with all of those three agencies that have a hand in DPRA, are DPRA employees then technically employees of all of those agencies, or?
No, we're funded by all those agencies, but technically we are Turlock Irrigation District employees. Okay,
got it. And so how is Don Pedro Recreation Agency then funded?
So through that operating agreement, there are some specifics that mention back to the fourth agreement, which is another one that is between all those agencies I mentioned. I don't know all the details of that one, but I do know that's where our funding is identified. And it's really 51% San Francisco, and then the other 49% is split up 2/3, 1/3 between TID and MID. So in addition to the FERC recreation requirements, there's also requirements of our license that are non-recreation specific, such as our debris management, taking care of the turnouts. We have some fencing that we manage and take care of. Those are actually just funded through MID and TID because they're not recreation specific.
Okay, very good. But now I understand that DPRA is also funded through, at least in part, through revenue.
the majority of our recovery does come through gate revenues, campsites, POS sales, things like that. We do have a $6 million budget for O&M, and about $5 million of that is recovered back through POS sales.
And tell us a little bit about how does that budget process happen?
It's a lengthy one. So I mentioned the Don Pedro Recreation Board of Control. We do have our 3 board members that have to vote unanimously to approve our budget. But the motion that they make is actually a recommendation to approve to the TID and MID boards for approval. So from there, I do bring my capital O&M budgets back to TID and MID for approval as part of the TID and MID processes.
Got it. Okay. So a lot of checks and balances in that process.
Yes.
And a lot of meetings that you get to attend.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So let's get into to DPRA a little bit more. What are some of the goals of DPRA as an agency?
Outside of meeting our FERC obligations, the boards are really strongly and firm on trying to recover our costs through revenues. It's not a deal breaker when it comes to budget season, but we do have to make an effort to try to recover those costs. What's great about it is the district boards have been very supportive of the agency, where the focus is not on cutting expenses, but rather how do we generate additional revenue. So it's been a challenging few years, but it's also been fun trying to come up with creative ways to try to generate those revenues. And we have a lot of new things that we've done and a lot of new things coming down the pipeline. So it's been great getting their support for that.
That's cool. It kind of gives you an open channel to, like you said, get creative and your team to get creative to come up with fun new ideas to bring more people in. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit about kind of some of the annual statistics for DPRA. Can you tell us about like the annual number of visitors or vehicles that come through?
Yeah, so the number of visitors is very difficult. We don't do a tally and a count on every person that comes through, but through some of our POS sales and some of the passes and the day use that we see, we're able to estimate that there's roughly 400,000 people that come every year.
Wow.
Through the sales, we also identify that there's roughly 60,000 vehicles that come through the gates. Not every one of them is unique, but we do have a count of about 60,000 vehicles throughout the year.
Man, that's a lot. All right. And then what would you say the busiest time of year for Don Pedro Recreation Agency would be?
By far, it's going to be the fireworks show. Typically, it's on July 4th, but anytime that weekend when we're having that fireworks show, we're going to have a lot of people.
Well, I would imagine so. It's a very popular sight to behold, for sure. What about campsite rentals?
So on average, we have about 28,000 campsites sold. That could be through reservations or walk-ins, but that's going to be about 28,000 nights out of the 600 campsites that we have out there. Okay,
very good. And you mentioned that you do sell annual passes. About how many season pass holders do you guys have?
So we have various annual passes depending on vehicle, types of vehicles, age. And so we have about 2,800 annual vehicle passes sold in any given year, and then about 2,300 boat annuals that are sold. And that includes the personal watercrafts like jet skis.
Okay, gotcha. You guys are seeing some good traffic.
Yes.
That's awesome. It's great to hear that so many people are taking advantage of Don Pedro Recreation. That's awesome. Do you have any idea of the breakdown as far as like those that are more local to this area or those that come from farther away?
It's been challenging to try to figure out through tracking, but we can track the annual passes because we have to get an address and an account for those people. But for day use, you're coming in and you're going. We're actually working on upgrading some of our reservation software so that we will be able to track that, though.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that would be a fun stat to know, I would think.
We used to be able to do it probably about 10 years ago is when the reservation software was upgraded and we weren't able to do it. But we actually just had the meeting yesterday. And we're working on getting that back.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, we'll have to have you back on at some future point so you can give us that breakdown. All right. So with all those visitors, it must take a small army to take care of the grounds and kind of maintain everything. Can you tell me about DPRA staff and how many and sort of what some of their duties are?
Yeah, from the top, it really looks like we have two divisions. We have our field operations and we have our administration. Outside of our field operations, we have a division manager who oversees the park maintenance, the rangers, the park aides, most of the seasonal staff that are out there. And on the administrative side, we do have an administrative division manager, and then we have our administrative assistant, and then we have two administrative clerks. But then we also have a seasonal staff member that comes in the summertime so that we can have 7-day-a-week operations.
Okay, very good. All right. So you mentioned seasonal employees. That sounds interesting. What defines a seasonal employee and what are they responsible for?
So the seasonal employees are really an extension of our staff. I mentioned the 400,000 visitors, 60,000 vehicles. The majority of those come between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And so we really ramp up our staffing so that we can cover all of our bases during that time period. And so we bring in about anywhere from 20 to 25 seasonal staff throughout the summer. And they're on staff for about 6 months. And they're working just like a parkade would, where they're going to be in the kiosks, and they could be in the campgrounds, they could be working patrol, they could be on the lake. They're going to be anywhere and everywhere.
Okay. And is that the same sort of position that you got your kind of first taste of recreation as a seasonal employee?
No. I worked for a much smaller reservoir on Pine Mountain Lake, and my job was really to work on the beach, empty trash cans, and enforce some rules. But it's similar, but it's a little bit different at Don Pedro. Okay,
gotcha. But still a good way to maybe get your foot in the door and assess if that sort of work is your thing.
Absolutely. In fact, not most, but a lot of our full-time staff have at one point worked seasonal through the years.
Okay, great. So what sort of things are the seasonals and the park aides responsible for? What are sort of some of their duties?
We break it down to the kiosk, where you're going to be the first person that somebody sees as a visitor, paying your fees, checking into a campsite, things like that. We also have patrol, which is going to be an extension of the ranger staff. They may not have the same certifications as the rangers, but they could enforce rules, and they're going to be overlooking some of the things going on in there. We do have some retirees that have those certs where they can help with the medicals and the fire. We have maintenance, where they're going to be out there, where they're going to be fixing water leaks and plumbing issues, things like that. And then we have care and police, which is really important for us. They're responsible for the sanitation, the garbage truck, and emptying dumpsters. They're going to be out there on the reservoir with lake operations, helping with the floating restroom pump outs, things like that.
Okay, nice, excellent. All right, so I've heard you refer before to DPRA as your own little city. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know the behind the scenes of Don Pedro Recreation Agency. We have 3 wastewater treatment plants, and we have 2 water treatment plants, and our park maintenance workers they're certified in wastewater treatment, water distribution. And then we have our rangers. Our rangers have emergency medical response certifications. They have wildland fire certifications, and then they take a PC 832 class, which is really focused on conflict resolution. So we may not be traditional law enforcement, but we're out there running like a small city, from rules all the way down to treating our own sewer. Yeah. Wow. That's a lot to take care of for sure. All right. So let's move now into some of the fun stuff. Not that, sanitation and garbage and conflict resolution isn't fun. But there's so many amazing recreation opportunities at Don Pedro. Way more than I realized before I started with TID. So let's talk about camping. There are multiple campgrounds at DPRA. Sure. What most people know and what people see is the 3 campgrounds, Blue Oaks, Fleming Meadows, and Moxon Point. But what a lot of people don't recognize is that we have a lot of dispersed opportunities as well. Out on the reservoir, you can shoreline camp. We have our wilderness area where you can disperse camp out there. We don't call it camping, but you can even bring your boat out and you can just sleep on your boat overnight too. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. That's cool. Yeah. In fact, one of the things that's a hidden gem is with the boat camping, as long as you're sleeping on your boat and not on the shoreline, you actually don't have to pay those dispersed camping fees. Ah, tricky. A little workaround there. Yeah, if you've paid your day use for your boat, you're good. Exactly. So you'll see patio boats throughout the summer where they got tents just propped up right there on the deck. Nice. I like that. Very cool. Okay. So can you give us some of the characteristics of each of those 3 campgrounds? If I was thinking about booking a spot at Don Pedro, what would I want to consider about each of them? Sure. Fleming Meadows is by far our most popular. We've got roughly 100 full hookup sites. We've got tent camping. We've got dispersed camping. We have walk-in camping. Wow. But also at Fleming Meadows, you'll be able to find the swimming lagoon. It's also got the largest boat launch, and it also has the full-service marine over there. At Blue Oaks, it's a quieter area. There is partial hookups where you're only going to get power and water. You won't have the sewer connections. Okay. But inside Blue Oaks, you'll almost always be able to find a campsite to reserve. Out inside Blue Oaks, we also have the group camping, which can accommodate 20 vehicles and up to 250 people, which is very popular. In the summertime, it's booked every Saturday.
Wow. Nice.
Except 4th of July. We don't allow people to book it on 4th of July.
That's probably a good move. Yeah.
It's a gray area for viewing the fireworks, and that's where a lot of our overflow parking goes to. And then at Moxon Point's a little bit further out of the way. It's on the east shore, about 45 minutes from the existing visitor center. But the great thing about that is also only 45 minutes from the gates of Yosemite. So it's very popular. It's a smaller campground, but it does have a boat launch. It has all the same features as our other campgrounds.
Okay, very cool. But is that much closer to Yosemite, if that's of interest?
Yes, it's very much closer to Yosemite. And it does also have a marina over there as well.
Okay, great. All right. So a big draw, of course, is the reservoir. What types of water-based activities can you find at Don Pedro?
Anything that you can imagine on the water you can do. We have houseboating. The marinas have houseboat rentals. There's water skiing, wakeboarding, jet skiing. I mentioned the camping. We even had one time, it's been a while, but somebody actually landed a plane out on the reservoir. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Somebody had a water plane. They landed right on the water, and there's a picture somewhere. I don't have it with me, but there's actually one of our rangers went out there by boat and charged them their day use when they saw it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Did you guys know that a plane was going to land on the reservoir?
Apparently, they had been doing it for a while. They've done it before.
No
and that's
kidding.
why they were waiting for them to give them the Iron Ranger, so they paid their day use.
That's fantastic. I love that. Nobody gets a free ride. Okay. And what about fishing at Lake Don Pedro?
Fishing is very popular at Lake Don Pedro. We've got all sorts of different types of species. We've got bass, trout. There's some of our most popular. And there's always a place to go fishing Don Pedro, whether it's in the middle, in the deep parts, on the shoreline. And we have 160 miles of shoreline out there, so you'll almost always be able to find a spot to go fishing.
Fantastic. Okay, so while we're on the subject of boating, I wanted to ask about the golden mussel issue that's been permeating reservoirs over the last couple years, and really creating quite a nuisance for boaters and for reservoir operators. What is the golden mussel, and how is DPRA addressing that?
So the golden mussel is an invasive species, and it's very much like the quagga and zebra mussel. However, it can reproduce faster, it can be a larger nuisance, and it can really clog up some of those infrastructure, pipes, boats, things like that. For us, we're handling it much like we did the quagga and zebra mussel. We're on a self-inspection process. Many people think we're not doing anything, but we certainly are. Most of it is behind the scenes. So a lot of our inspections are on our own infrastructure, our own vessels. It's very difficult for us to make sure we catch every boat through inspection. We're also 24/7, 365. So it's very difficult for us to just shut down during certain hours when the lake never closes to begin with. But we also do our own testing. There's something referred to as eDNA testing, where you take a sample of the water that you have, and you take a sample of infected waters, and you compare it, and you see if it's got positive or negative results.
Okay, got it. And so how are you guiding boaters as far as their own self-inspection and what to do?
We have a self-inspection form. It's there at the entrance kiosk, or you can find it on our website. This is something that is we do require it, but it's not going to stop you from launching.
Okay, got it. And how about other reservoirs in our area? How are they responding to the golden mussel issue?
Many different reservoirs are handling it differently. Some of them are doing the 30-day quarantine process. Some of them are closed completely. Some of them have different inspection processes. Some of them are even bringing dogs out, mussel sniffing dogs, to see if your boat's been contaminated.
No kidding.
And there's other reservoirs that are handling it just like us with self-inspection as well.
Okay, got it. Well, hopefully we will see a decline in that this year. Fingers crossed. Okay. So a big part of the water-based activities are the marinas. Can you tell me about those and what they offer?
Yeah, we have two marinas, one at Fleming Meadows and one at Moxon Point. Fleming Meadows is a larger marina. It has a lot more boat slips. It also has houseboat rentals and various other kind of rentals. They have a full-service cafe down there with a store. And then at Moxon Point, while it is smaller, they still do have some boat rentals and some slips. It's just a smaller footprint.
Okay, very good. So now let's take the fun from the reservoir back on land. What other recreation opportunities are available at Don Pedro outside of the boating activities or camping?
Yeah, so we have trails out there. We have 2 trails that are mapped and developed, which is going to be at Blue Oaks and then also Moxon Point. But about 4 or 5 years now, we developed the wilderness area, which we did do some development on a trail. But one thing we learned in this 750-acre plot of land is that there's a lot of wildlife out there. So there's a lot of developed trails, but they've been naturally developed. This is a neat area. We're still trying to learn how it's being utilized, what we can do to promote it. But e-bikes is very popular right now. And
really?
So we don't have any restrictions on the types of e-bikes because it's not popular enough really for it to be a problem. So we're encouraging people to come out and try them out. And if anything, the more the use, the more developed they're going to become.
Okay. I would have never thought to bring an e-bike out to the reservoir. I'm glad you mentioned that. Another fun activity that I understand is relatively new is a rock hunt.
Yeah, this was something that we put in place to actually try to promote the wilderness area. We have a laser engraver for some of our signs and everything else, but we engraved some rocks and we hid them out in the wilderness area. And you'll know it when you see it. I've seen designs. I have no idea where they're located. I think there may be 1 or 2 people on my staff that actually know where they're at. And if you were to find one of these, the promotion is that you would bring it to our visitor center. We would take a picture with you, post on social media, and then we would actually gift you an annual pass as a reward for finding it.
Very cool. Okay, so there's a little incentive to get out and explore that wilderness area then. That's awesome. And I understand that you are allowed to bring your furry friends to the reservoir. Is that right?
Yeah. So dogs have always been welcomed on the reservoir. They just weren't always welcomed inside the campgrounds and some of the day use areas. But we recognize that this was becoming more and more trendy, that people like to recreate with their dogs, and through COVID especially, right? And so in 2022, we made the change in our rules where we were going to allow people to bring dogs for a fee, but this was going to allow people longer stays. It was going to allow people to come up more often. And yeah, so this is just something that we thought was going to promote more outdoor recreation if you could come with your pets.
Excellent. And what is the cost if you want to bring your dog with you?
It's $10 a day, or we do sell an annual pass for $100.
I love it. An annual pass for your pooch. All right. So you mentioned the swimming lagoon earlier. For those of us who maybe have a dairy background as far as lagoons are concerned, can you tell us what to anticipate at the DPRA lagoon, which is much different and much more pleasant?
So the swimming lagoon is a 2-acre pond. It's essentially a pond, but it is filtered and treated water. We actually pump the water straight from the lake. We have a massive filtration system that will treat the water when it goes in. And it's basically a sand bottom pool. It's chlorinated, and so it's very clean, very popular. It's not very deep, great for the kids, or if you just want to go lay out by the beach and not on the shoreline of the lake. Excellent.
All right. And occasionally there are food trucks that visit the lagoon. Is that right?
Yeah. So we do have a concession stand down there. We are going to be taking that operation back, and we'll be looking for a new concessionaire. But over the years, we've been trying to look at more offerings. So we've been working with different food truck vendors, and that's been something that we put out there for a couple of years now. And we're expecting to have them back this summer too.
All right. Great. I think last year was the first year, but DPRA has recently played host to some pretty cool and pretty sizable fishing tournaments. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so fishing tournaments are very popular at Don Pedro. Most of them are private. They're smaller. They're clubs or groups, things like that. But last year was our first year where we partnered with Bass Angler Magazine, and we put on three different types of tournaments. One was a kayak tournament, and then we had a Pro-Am, and then we had a Pro Series. And wow. It was pretty successful. They're actually going to be coming back this year. We have the kayak tournament coming back on April 25th. We have the Pro-Am on September 18th, and then we have the Super 60 Pro Series. That'll be October 16th through the 18th.
Fantastic. All right. And about how many participants in these tournaments, or how much more popularity does that generate for Don Pedro when these are happening?
Yeah, so we don't know how many people are going to come this year because we don't have those registration numbers yet, but I think we can anticipate to see about 150 at the Pro and the Pro-Am. And the kayak one is, it can vary depending on weather usually. Is the water too cold? Is it raining out? And usually on a boat, it's a little bit easier to fish than a kayak when the weather's bad.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Very cool. So folks who are interested can watch Don Pedro's social media to find out more about those tournaments?
Yeah, we post on our social media page the different ways to register for these tournaments.
Great. Okay. All right. So there are lots of exciting things to do at Don Pedro Lake, and it seems like 2026 is going to bring even more. What big things are happening there this year?
And so in 2026, we do have our annual fireworks show. The exciting thing with the 250th anniversary is that it's actually going to be on Saturday, July 4th. So the fireworks show is actually launched right from the water over on the west shore in between the Blue Oaks launch ramp and the Flaming Meadows launch ramp, kind of near the dam. Anybody can come that day. It's $40 per vehicle and $20 per vessel. If you have annual passes, you actually don't pay those fees. We do allow entry based on your annual pass purchase.
Great.
And the fireworks show, it doesn't have an exact time, but we do shoot for around 9:30. It really depends on, the lights and the darkness and making sure that we can have the right setting for the fireworks show.
Yeah.
It's about a 30-minute show. People seem to love it. It's very popular. We just ask that people do not park on the dam and that they do make sure that they park in the necessary parking areas if they do want to come last minute.
That's right. We want to keep everybody safe. So that's a good plug to, if you are thinking about going up for 4th of July weekend, to book your campsite now.
Yes, definitely want to book it now. We are already 98% full in Fleming Meadows right now.
Oh my goodness.
So Blue Oaks, there's still some sites available though.
Okay, good to know. And anybody who does come up for the fireworks or come up any day to visit Don Pedro Recreation Agency might notice that there's a little bit of construction underway. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so in 2016, we had the unfortunate event where our visitor center burned down. Since then, we've been in the temporary visitor center site. We had various challenges trying to get this new visitor center, but I'm excited to say that we have started construction in March of this year already.
Oh, that's great.
And we are expecting the visitor center to be completely constructed by 2027, the summer of 2027.
Okay, and now is the new visitor center being built on the footprint of the old visitor center?
Unfortunately, we couldn't get it there. It was a very expensive project to build it on the original build site, and we were working off our insurance settlement, and it just was not feasible at the original location. So we're actually excited that it's coming inside the parks. We're going to be putting our visitor center inside Fleming Meadows, right near the trading post. We're going to be sharing a deck, and it's going to have a nice overview of the lake. It'll be right near the boat launch. We'll be near all our customers. The staff will be easily accessible.
Very cool. And what sort of things can the guests anticipate out of the new visitor center?
The new visitor center will act very similar to the old one. We're going to have a lobby where you can take care of business. We're going to have exhibits where you can see educational things, cultural things, hopefully. But one of the exciting things that we're bringing to this is going to be the multi-purpose area where we're going to have the ability to let the public rent this space out. But hopefully we can even run some events out of there as well.
Very good. All right. Anything else happening around DPRA in 2026?
Yeah, we actually have an exciting project that just kicked off as well. We did the site survey yesterday, and we're going to be working to bring Wi-Fi into Fleming Meadows for our customers.
Oh, okay. I can see if you're out there for the weekend or even for the day that you would want to connect to Wi-Fi for all the various things. So I imagine that'll be a welcome addition for visitors.
Yeah, and for those that don't want Wi-Fi, we still have other campsites that don't have the accessibility, and the Wi-Fi is optional. It will be included as part of your camping. Okay,
great. All right, so all of these projects don't come together on accident. I'd like to talk a little bit about the future of DPRA. A few years ago, you guys completed a 20-year capital improvement plan. What can you tell us about that plan and the projects that are included in it?
Yeah, the main focus here was going to be facilities, utilities, and infrastructure. The focus was looking at all of those things and identifying what the initial need is and what can we do over the next 20 years to think about the future while also repairing and replacing. So we have a primary focus right now on the immediate needs, which some of the projects have already been completed, which is going to be the pavilion over at the Blue Oaks Group area, and then as well as the Blue Oaks launch ramp parking area was just redone this year. And right now the focus is on the electrical system and making sure that we can improve it, add capacity for the future. And a lot of people want 50 amp camping, so we're looking at that as an option and how we can improve for the future as well.
Well, before we wrap up and I go book a campsite for July 4th, how can people stay up to date on all of the exciting things that are happening at DPRA?
Yeah, anybody can go to our website at www.donpedrolake.com or follow us on social media on Facebook or Instagram at Don Pedro Lake Camping, Boating, and Fishing.
Okay, very good. Well, Ryan, thanks for coming back to join us again, and we'll have to have you back in a couple more years to give us the update on the completed visitor center and everything else that will be new at Don Pedro.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the TID Water and Power Podcast. You can find TID on Facebook at facebook.com/TurlockID, on Instagram at TurlockID, and on LinkedIn as the Turlock Irrigation District. I'm your host, Constance Anderson. We'll see you again next time.